สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Welcome to NBT World's The Fireside. I'm Benjamin Ruchopagan.
And I'm Warisa Nidanat Gomon. Every week we have a fireside chat exploring what's going on in Thailand, diving deep into our latest obsessions.
So for most of the past 2 decades, the unspoken truth has been that Thailand and Vietnam have been economic competitors for everything, manufacturing, logistics, tourism, so on. But that's now all about to change because between May 27th and 29th, Vietnamese President Tho Lam paid a state visit to Thailand, culminating in one of the most significant economic agreements Southeast Asia has seen in years. During the visit, Thailand and Vietnam formally elevated their partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership, which is the highest level of diplomatic cooperation available in both countries' systems.
Right, and the timing was symbolic. So this year actually marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two nations. But the significance of the agreement goes far beyond symbolism. Behind the handshakes and official ceremonies lies a growing concern shared by both governments. The global trading environment has become increasingly unstable due to, geopolitical conflicts, tariffs, sanctions, and even carbon regulations. For export-dependent nations like Thailand and Vietnam, these kind of create a very difficult reality for us, one in which neither country is large enough to shape the global system on its own.
That's right. So instead of competing against each other for a smaller slice of the pie, Bangkok and Hanoi are attempting to do something different. They're trying to combine their strengths to create a more resilient regional manufacturing network. Now, the centerpiece of this new strategy is the Thailand-Vietnam Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Action Plan for 2026 to 2031, a real mouthful. Now, this is a roadmap covering everything from trade and investment to infrastructure, finance, security, and technology. Now, simply put, the two countries are trying to transform themselves from competitors into partners, creating a production ecosystem that is stronger than either could build alone.
Yeah, and today we're going to look at what experts are saying about this partnership, what Thailand and Vietnam bring to the table, and also the specific areas of cooperation between the two countries.
That's right. So first off, comprehensive strategic partnership. It seems like diplomatic jargon, but according to many observers, it reflects something much bigger, which is a fundamental shift in how Thailand and Vietnam are seeing each other. All of the siblings, I think, have a relationship defined by some uneasy mix of cooperation and competition. Recently, Khon Kaen University held a seminar with panelists including former Thai ambassador to Vietnam, Dr. Anuson Chinwano, and former Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Narongchai Akaraserani, discussed both countries emerged from the same Mekong region but followed very different developmental paths. Now, Thailand began building a market economy in the 1960s and integrated closely with Western economies. Vietnam, meanwhile, spent decades trying to rebuild after war before launching a transformative Doi Moi reform in 1986 and opening itself to global markets. Now, as a result, Thailand became the benchmark for Vietnam.
Right, and according to Dr. Nguyen Huang Song, president of Vietnam's Diplomatic Academy, many Vietnamese view Thailand as an example of successful economic development, a country with stronger infrastructure, a more mature industrial base, and earlier integration into the global economy. But over the past 2 decades, the gap has narrowed dramatically. Vietnam has become one of Asia's fastest growing manufacturing centers, attracting enormous levels of foreign investment and building one of the world's most extensive networks of free trade agreements. And today, Vietnam's trade agreements provide preferential access to economies representing roughly 90% of global GDP.
That's a lot of preferential access. Now, its transformation has been so rapid that veteran regional analyst Gawi Jongkit Thawan argues that Vietnam has reached what he calls a new plateau of development, one that gives Hanoi greater confidence not only economically but diplomatically as well. That confidence helps to explain why this visit carries such unusual significance. Thailand is the first ASEAN country visited by Tho Lam after assuming Vietnam's top leadership position as both the party general secretary and the state president. Now, according to Gawi, this decision reflects Vietnam's growing interest in working more closely with Thailand, not only bilaterally, but also as a partner in shaping ASEAN's future direction.
And this visit comes as both countries face the same external pressures: supply chain disruptions, energy uncertainty, growing competition between major powers, and a global economy that is becoming increasingly fragmented. For export-driven economies, these challenges are difficult to navigate alone. So that's why analysts increasingly view the new partnership as less of a diplomatic celebration and more of a strategic adaptation. Instead of competing for the same investment projects, Thailand and Vietnam are exploring how they can combine their strengths.
Now, Gawi argues that this role could extend beyond the two countries themselves because together Thailand and Vietnam serve as the principal economic anchors of the Mekong subregion, linking broader initiatives such as ACMEX, ASEAN connectivity projects, and future transport corridors that connect southern China all the way to Singapore. Now, in that sense, this partnership could demonstrate whether middle powers like ASEAN member nations can work together to bring greater economic resilience in an increasingly uncertain world. Now, to understand why that idea is gaining traction, we have to look at what each country actually brings to the table.
Yes. So for years, Thailand and Vietnam were often portrayed as rivals competing for the same investment. As multinational companies adopted China plus one strategies and sought alternatives to manufacturing in China, both countries aggressively competed for foreign factories, export industries, and supply chain investment. And in many cases, Vietnam emerged as the preferred destination even. Companies such as Samsung built major manufacturing and research operations there. LG shifted television production to Vietnam, and Suzuki eventually seized automobile manufacturing in Thailand altogether.
Now, at the same time, Thailand remains one of Southeast Asia's most established industrial economies. The Board of Investment has reported that total investment value grew by 67% year on year to approximately $60.23 billion or 1.87 trillion baht. Now, rather than asking which country is stronger, a more useful question might be how are they different? So Thailand's strengths tend to be concentrated on industrial maturity. The country possesses extensive industrial estates, deep-sea ports, established automotive clusters, sophisticated electronic supply chains, and decades of experience supporting multinational manufacturers. Thailand is also home to substantial corporate capital, advanced logistics networks, research and development capabilities, and major producers of industrial chemicals and intermediate components.
Right. And Vietnam's strengths are often described quite differently. So the average age is actually 30 in Vietnam. And because of that, they benefit from a younger workforce and lower labor costs. And since launching the Doi Moi reforms in 1986, the country has aggressively integrated itself into the global economy, attracting large volumes of foreign direct investment and building an extensive network of free trade agreements. Now, according to analysts, those trade agreements now provide Vietnam preferential access to markets representing roughly 90% of global GDP. Vietnam has also become a major center for large-scale manufacturing and assembly, particularly in electronics, consumer technology, and export-oriented businesses.
Now, when policymakers from both countries are discussing the comprehensive strategic partnership, they frequently describe that these characteristics are complementary. According to Sanan Ang Ubon-kun, president of the Thailand-Vietnam Friendship Association, Thailand may have advantages in capital, logistics systems, and R&D, but Vietnam has strengths in labor and benefits from free trade agreements with Europe and U.S. markets. Now, this idea has been described as a 1+1 model. Instead of competing to host the entire production process, different stages of manufacturing could take place in different countries.
So whether that vision materializes remains to be seen. What is clear is that economic ties are already substantial. Now, in a statement, Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul pointed out that Thailand is currently Vietnam's largest trading partner within ASEAN, and Vietnam is Thailand's second largest trading partner within the bloc. Meanwhile, Lee Hu-Fook, who is Vietnam's trade counselor in Thailand, noted that bilateral trade reached $22.1 billion in 2025. That's almost 2.5 times higher than when the two countries established their strategic partnership back in 2013. Now, during the first 4 months of 2026, the two-way trade reached $8.6 billion, growing almost 24% year on year.
Now, investment links have also deepened because Thailand is now Vietnam's 8th largest foreign investor with 792 projects worth a combined $15.4 billion in registered capital. Meanwhile, Vietnamese businesses are increasingly exploring opportunities in the Thai market. And there's also another area where both governments see opportunities for cooperation, which is sustainability. Thailand is promoting its biocircular green, or BCG, economic model, while Vietnam is pursuing its own green transition and net zero objectives. So officials on both sides have repeatedly highlighted renewable energy, circular economy projects, digital transformation, and green industrial development as future areas of collaboration.
And all of these trends help explain why both governments believe a deeper partnership is worth pursuing. Whether the two economies are truly complementary or whether they remain competitors learning to cooperate in selected areas is a question that will likely be answered over the next decade. But what we do know is that both governments are now trying to turn that idea into reality through a series of concrete initiatives.
Yeah, because it's one thing for leaders to talk about creating a more integrated economic future, but it's another thing to make it happen entirely. Now, agreements signed during Tô Lâm visit revealed that Thailand and Vietnam are attempting something much broader than your traditional trade partnership. Rather than focusing on a single sector, the new comprehensive strategic partnership seeks to connect supply chains, financial systems, transportation networks, and even security institutions. Now, if the goal is to create a more resilient regional economy, then goods, capital, people, information, they all need to move more efficiently across borders.
Yeah, and the centerpiece of the economic agenda is what both governments call the Three Connects strategy, which consists of course, 3 pillars. Now, the first pillar is the supply chain connectivity. The objective is to reduce vulnerabilities created by trade wars, energy shocks, and disruptions in global manufacturing networks. Officials envision a system in which industries in both nations become more tightly linked rather than operating as separate national ecosystems.
Yes, and one example that has been repeatedly cited by business groups involves automotive and industrial manufacturing, which, we're a huge hub for Japanese autos. So Thailand could produce intermediate goods such as automotive parts, industrial materials, or chemicals. Meanwhile, Vietnamese facilities can perform later stage assembly before products are then exported through Vietnam's extensive network of free trade agreements. Whether companies ultimately adopt this model remains to be seen, but it illustrates the direction that policymakers are trying to encourage.
And the second pillar focuses on grassroots economy and small businesses. So rather than concentrating development solely in Bangkok and Hanoi, both governments want to strengthen links within and between the regional economies. Each country would facilitate market access for each other's local products, including Thailand's One Tambon, One Product, or OTOP program, and Vietnam's One Commune, One Product, or OCOP program.
That's right. You can see that, the programs are very closely mirroring each other, even in the way that they're named as well, right? So each government will also look at overland routes running through Laos. So Laos will also be a part of this partnership as well on some level. And this includes the R8 and R12 economic corridors and the broader East-West economic corridor. Now, if upgraded successfully, these routes could reduce transportation costs, they could shorten delivery times, and they could also provide new opportunities for provincial businesses and SMEs on both sides of the border and cross-border.
And last but not least, the third pillar is sustainable growth. Both countries face growing pressure from environmental regulations in export markets, particularly measures such as the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. To prepare for the shift, Thailand and Vietnam are exploring cooperation in renewable energy, clean technology, smart agriculture, biotechnology, and low carbon manufacturing. Officials frequently describe this as an effort to align Thailand's biocircular green economic model with Vietnam's green transition and net zero ambitions.
So despite the whole breadth of the Three Connect strategy, we talked about supply chain, we talked about small business, and then also sustainability. That's actually just one aspect of the partnership, because during President Tho Lâm visit, Vietnam's State Securities Commission, or SSC, and Thailand's Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, agreed to deepen regulatory cooperation as Vietnam enters a new phase of its capital market development following its upgrade to emerging market status by FTSE Russell. Now, regulators exchange experience on digital asset trading platforms, gold derivatives, market surveillance technologies, and risk government systems.
And SEC Chairwoman Vu Thi Chan Phung took the opportunity to thank Thai regulators for supporting their Vietnamese counterparts who are considering how to introduce new financial products. And at the same time, she noted that Thai investors continue expanding their presence in Vietnam, while some Thai companies are exploring listing on the Ho Chi Minh City Stock Exchange. In practical terms, both governments appear to be laying on groundwork for capital to move more easily across borders alongside goods and services.
So we talked about the overland connections through Laos, but there's actually more to this aspect of logistical connectivity. One of the most notable announcements involves a feasibility study for an aircraft maintenance, repair, and overhaul, or MRO, facility at Utapao Airport. We've talked about this for some time now, or at least policymakers have. So the project would bring together Thailand's Eastern Economic Corridor Office and Vietjet Group in an effort to develop regional aerospace capabilities.
Right, and that brings us to the tourism sector, which is also high on the agenda. The Tourism Authority of Thailand and Vietnam Airlines signed agreements aiming at promoting travel between the two countries, while Vietnam Airlines announced a new Ho Chi Minh City Phuket route scheduled to launch this July. Now, Vietjet Thailand simultaneously unveiled plans to expand its fleet with 50 Boeing 737-8 aircrafts.
So these initiatives, there's no ignoring the context. They come at a very difficult time for regional tourism because rising fuel costs and broader geopolitical instability have really put pressure on airlines and reduced long-haul travel demand from some Western markets. So for both countries, stronger regional tourism really offers a way to offset some of these other challenges.
And perhaps the most striking aspect of the partnership is that economic cooperation is being developed alongside expanded security cooperation. Both governments agreed to strengthen coordination against transnational crime, including online scams, cyber fraud, human trafficking, illegal fishing, and other cross-border criminal activities. They pledged closer legal cooperation and reaffirmed that neither country's territory should be used for activities directed against the other.
Yes, and beyond law enforcement, both sides emphasize energy security and maritime stability as essential economic concerns. The discussions during that visit, included cooperation on energy resilience. Energy is really important right now. Freedom of navigation and maintaining stability in the South China Sea under international law. And we can see here that the agreement really is comprehensive, strategic. It's a real partnership in an attempt to build a framework that can withstand economic shocks, geopolitical rivalry, technological disruption, and security challenges all at the same time. But, whether the framework succeeds, it is an open question, but the ambition here is clearly much larger than just increasing bilateral trade. So, this is all a lot of heavy stuff, but have you actually been to Vietnam before?
Yeah, I have. I thought it was such a cute little country, I guess. Like, it does seem like Thailand's little sister to me personally. I feel like I guess the hospitality of the people there are pretty friendly, similar to Thailand. The food is great. The weather is great. The traffic is questionable a little bit. Right. It's a little bit crazy with the traffic situation.
Where did you go?
I went to Saigon.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
But that was ages ago too. I'm pretty sure that...
And Saigon's Ho Chi Minh.
Yes, correct. Right. And I think that, that was a long time ago. Hopefully, the traffic situation and, the infrastructure around there might change a little bit.
Right.
How about yourself?
That's so funny because I went to the same city. And I think it was like last year. And I will say that the traffic, I guess because I had seen so much of it on social media, that I was like mentally prepared for just the onslaught of all the motorcycles and, and sort of what we would consider to be aggressive driving in Thailand. But you can tell that they're not taking it personally. Like they're honking at each other all the time, and that can be kind of distracting. But I think by like day 3, I wasn't that bothered by it anymore. I think I was starting to get used to it. So, but it's so funny because the honking culture is so different from Thailand to Vietnam. I feel like if you honk like that in Thailand, you're heated.
Yeah.
This is a road rage incident.
Yes.
But for them, it's really just signaling. They're using it like signaling. So, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt for the first time that I could see myself long term in another country. That's for sure. I felt like I could see potential in myself moving there more so than any other country. What about yourself? Have you ever thought about, working, if you could, work remotely as a digital nomad, perhaps in Ho Chi Minh or anywhere else in Vietnam?
I think this is a complete preference up to the person. But for me personally, I do prefer Thailand. Anywhere in Thailand, even. It doesn't even have to be Bangkok. And I think that's because, I speak Thai. That's a huge bonus. And also, I'm more accustomed to, I guess, the Thai way of life even. The Vietnam way of life could be seen kind of similar, but they are a little bit more, they are really hardworking. Sometimes they work themselves to the ground. I find myself a little bit more sabai, I guess.
I get that. I totally get that because I did find that they seem more industrious. They seem more like there's more hustle culture, and which is why they're doing so well now, right? Because they're getting after it, right? That's true. I do feel like we are really in Thai, you would say, tit sabai. We really like to relax, or we want to be chill, and we're looking for the next moment to chill out, and we're looking at ways to elevate the chill outness of the moment, which is why we make such a great tourist destination. But tourism isn't everything, right? Especially for people who are living here.
In terms of the currency of Vietnam, I find it very fun to just spend there a little bit. And so I can understand why a lot of, international businesses want to do, partnership with the Vietnamese because the labor cost is very low compared to Thailand.
Yeah, agreed. I thought you were talking about, going to talk about like all the zeros.
Yes.
Just feeling like a millionaire, all the time, just because of the rate of inflation. I noticed that like after a while they do ignore the first 3 zeros and they just start from the first 1,000. So that was kind of fun. But one other thing that I was really impressed with is that they like to use their own EV. They have their own motorcycle. They have their own sedan EV as well. Like they have their own EV company. So it was very interesting to see, Vietnamese, being in a Vietnamese city and watching Vietnamese people use a Vietnamese car that's an EV. Whereas in Bangkok, like all of our EVs are Chinese, right? So it says something about the ambition of the Vietnamese people that I think that perhaps maybe Thai people are content in being the production hub of a foreign brand. But the Vietnamese have an ambition that goes beyond that, I think. And I've worked at a Vietnamese company before, and I found them all to be very young, very progressive, very ambitious people. Whether or not it worked out is a different story, but the fact that they had a reach that exceeded their grasp is something that doesn't quite exist in Thailand to the same degree. I think Thai people are very cautious people, and that can sometimes leave some opportunity on the table that the Vietnamese are happy to snatch up.
And now we turn it back to our audience. Are you looking forward to a closer tie between Thailand and Vietnam?
Let us know on NBT World's online channels. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ